Welcome to Hurts So Good. I'm your host, Orsi Sobo. And on this podcast, we're going to be exploring with ultra athletes, endurance athletes, what it takes, not just physically, but more importantly, mentally, to do these long adventure races. What ultra athletes put themselves through is physically demanding and painful, but there has to be something on the other side that makes it all worth it. So let's explore what makes it hurt so good. I'm your host, Orsi. I'm joined by my producer, Brooke, and our guest, Ria. Ria is about to embark on a journey from Asia all the way across Europe, covering over 20,000 kilometers on this Silk Road. 20,000 kilometers is like half of the circumference of the world. And so before we jump into your backstory, I just want to know what gave you the idea to go all across Asia and Europe in one go.
Yeah, so the whole story kind of started with a breakup, like any good story. But basically, I was really struggling when I was about two years ago now, when I just went through a breakup. But, that's kind of the surface of the issue. But I was going through a lot of different mental health issues as well as quarter life crisis, of a loss of meaning with my career, kind of going sideways. So yeah, everything combined just kind of put me in this spot where I was not really feeling good about myself. And running was something that got me out of it. And kind of like Forrest Gump, I just felt like running and I just ran more and more. And about a few months later, I'd say like maybe 5 months later, I ran my first ultra marathon. That was 550 kilometers in the desert in Sinai, in Egypt. And that was kind of a transitional, pivotal moment for me to think about what does it mean for me going forward. Now that I have accomplished something that I never think I could do before, what does that mean for me? Am I still feeling like a failure, feeling like I've never accomplished anything, but only having ran an ultra marathon? So a failure that's run an ultra marathon, or I can do something with this experience. So that's when I came up with this idea of, I originally wanted to run across the Silk Road. And I learned that Silk Road is not a defined trail. It's more that connects the East and the West. And so I thought, okay, what is something around this idea of connecting the East and West that feels really extreme, that feels impossible for me, but it's something that I think I have a chance to challenge. And so I did my research. It didn't look like anybody has ran this route before, from the easternmost point of Asia to the westernmost point of Europe. And so I was like, what if I can be the first one to do it?
That's so crazy to me because, I did read about the breakup and that you decided to run for 30 days in a row. I ran for 30 days in a row in April 2020. And, but my next logical step wasn't 500 kilometers and then 20,000 kilometers. So there's these, really huge jumps, right? What made you pick 500 kilometers for your first ultra versus a 50K, which is what most people would choose, I would assume?
Yeah, I think most reasonable people would actually choose a 15 kilometer with some kind of sanity. But I guess I was in the unlucky, or maybe now looking backward, lucky position of not being surrounded by runners. I didn't really know many people that ran, especially when I lived in Egypt. And so there's no frame of comparison, of no understanding how hard. So 50 kilometers is equally as impossible for me as a 500 kilometers. So I was like, well, might as well try for that. And yeah, so I had a chance to be in Chamonix basically the same year before I went to Egypt. And I didn't know anything about ultra running at the time. And then I just happened to be in Chamonix at the same time that UTMB was happening. And UTMB is the premier ultra running, trail running race in the world. And so seeing those people coming back from, 3 days running in the mountains and after hundreds of kilometers, and just seeing their faces and they're still somehow pulling themselves together and smiling. And I was just like, wow, this is incredible and insane, but they're human. So if they can do it, I guess all of us technically could maybe do it. And so I think that little bit of assurance gave me the confidence that maybe this is something I can attempt to.
Yeah, definitely. What did the first couple of months of training look like, going from no running to 500 kilometers in a pretty short amount of time? What was that like?
Yeah, it's So basically, August of that year, 2024, I could barely finish a half marathon. I was running, I basically for my birthday in Chamonix, I ran a 21-kilometer in the mountains, and it took me, I think, maybe 5 hours to finish. And I was really not doing well at the end of it. So
But to be
from
fair,
there,
it's like a half a marathon in the mountains of Chamonix. So it's
exactly.
not like a road half marathon. Like those times are not equivalent at all.
Right. So there's like maybe 1,500 or 500 meters of elevation gain, something
Yeah.
like that. So there's
It makes a
that.
big difference. Yeah.
Yeah, and the elevation also. But yeah, so after that, I kind of didn't really have a direction right away with running, so I didn't really consistently train until I got to Egypt, and that was like about 3 months before the end of the year. And I met a friend who have done similar things in terms of mountaineering and endurance training, not necessarily ultra marathon running, but who had more just knowledge about this stuff than I did. And so he helped me get started with this whole training program and getting started with the running stuff. And, you know, I think he had more confidence in me than I did at the time. And so that helped a lot. But basically at the time there was only 3 months left. I'm like, okay, well, I got to train. And so basically started doing first time in my life a running training program, which was very strange. And slowly worked up the mileage. I did long runs on the weekends, always back to back long runs. And initially those long runs looked like running 2 hours and basically collapsing after to in about 2.5 months running a marathon and running a like 20 kilometers after the next day. So that felt like a huge change, but also like a big confidence booster to see literally my body is adapting so fast to this kind of demand and realizing that as humans, that's, you know, we're all capable of running. And read the book Born to Run, you know, that gave me some inspiration about that this is not like necessarily bad for us, as in like we're made to do, our body is made to adapt to these kind of demands. So but yeah, in general, even before setting off on this 500-kilometer run, even that week before, I didn't think I could do it, actually. I didn't think I could finish. I think something's going to go wrong. I actually had a persistent chronic knee issue. Like since as a child, I was a figure skater and I had a lot of injuries from that. And I partially tore my ACL, MCL, and meniscus throughout my career. So those issues, I never got operated on. So those issues have been giving me pain throughout my training. And then so a week before the Sinai Trail run, my knee was hurting quite a lot from the long run. I'm like, I don't know if I can finish this. And somehow I did. I did go through a lot of pain during that first ultra. And I didn't know at the time that I made a video recently about this, about how painkiller is actually not good for ultra runners, but I didn't know at the time. So I actually was taking some painkillers at night to get me through each night because it was hurting so much. So not the smartest move, but it's what I needed, what my mind needed to get me out of the state I was in. So for that, I'm grateful for it. But yeah, it was tough.
Actually, if you don't mind if I could jump in for 1 second, because it's
Of
just absolutely fascinating to me. I'm still working on getting my first 5K, but what did you have to do to prepare mentally for that? Because it's like physically unbelievable, but I can't imagine you go through 500 kilometers without your brain just being like, what am I doing? Like wanting to stop. Did you ever have those moments where you just felt like you wanted to give up? And how did you get through that?
This is a funny story. Basically, I had a ayahuasca experience before the run, and that was maybe like a month before I take off on this ultra. And it was very intense. It was my first time experiencing anything like that. Well, that particular medicine. And not only did we do ayahuasca, we did something called the kambo, which is a frog poison that is directly rubbed into a burned wound. And that helps you purge a lot of your body's toxin. And that experience, I think, prepared my mind without me hoping that it would prepare my mind because it was so painful. It was very uncomfortable. I was feeling like I was dying. My body was fighting for its life. And it was at that point, and it was very short. It was a very brief moment. But I think now looking back at it, I feel like if I could have gone through that kind of mental pain and just discomfort, I could have gone through anything. And even though, the ultra was way longer, way more painful in reality and to the mind and to the body in a lot of sense, but I feel like that experience was such a shock to my system. And also there was like a lot of emotional stuff that I processed through the whole experience that allowed me to have some kind of spaciousness around the intensity that I eventually experienced through this ultra run.
Yeah, pain is really interesting in ultras because like it's inevitable. Like you're going to experience it. And I think it's like totally normal to want to quit and have moments of like, this is stupid. Why am I out here? What am I doing? Like it's just part of it.
Yeah, if it's not hurting, you'll probably do something wrong. I mean, I think for me, it's very important to differentiate it, though. It's not just like about us having pain fest here, like trying to,
No.
get it off from like having pains. I think I'm about recognizing the good pain and the bad pain. And we're not all just like popping painkiller every night to like do something that feels very impossible. Most times I can now tell if I'm having something that feels like an onset of an injury or an injury versus something that's just my body's like, I don't want to do this anymore. And a lot of times pain, like physical pain, can be caused from mental pain of boredom. And so there's also that of like recognizing, okay, this is like, mind generated pain instead of actual like physical, I should stop signal.
Yeah, but there's something about it, like you wrote about it in one of your Substacks, like metabolic mysticism is what you called it. But
Yeah.
I've always felt like when you're running, you're also shedding, right? Like there's this thing, like when animals get hurt, they just like shake until they sort of like release the trauma. And I feel like running is like that. Like even though you go through pain, it also sort of like shakes off all the stuff. Like you feel
That's so
quite.
interesting. Yeah, I just had a conversation earlier today actually with someone about the idea of grief and how like running can look similar in the sense that when you're processing grief, you're letting it in and you're really feeling it. And you have to, instead of pushing it away, you have to really feel it before you can get to that new beginning. And to me, like running is the same. It's a way of like really feeling the pain, feeling the body, and feeling like almost like this destruction of self, and then you come out the other way, stronger than you've ever been. So yeah.
Let's move past the Sinai Trail. That was your first one, and you were the first person to do that, right? Did you
Yeah.
choose it because you wanted to be the first person to do it?
I guess there's something about that is particularly scary. And being scary is a motivating factor for sure. So I think that was a big reason that got me like excited about doing this, because not only will I do something impossible, also like nobody has done it before. And I think there's something about that feels more special than going to a race for me.
Yeah. There's no FKT for that. Is that just because nobody had done it before?
That's funny you noticed. I actually submitted an FKT request for
Okay.
that, and they decided to not accept it because for them it was the route did not meet the standard that they wanted. Which to me, I don't know how I feel about that, but I respect their decision. But it's because how the Bedouins run the trail, and it just doesn't meet the Western standard, and to me that feels a little weird.
Got it. Fair enough. For those of people who don't know, FKT is fastest known time. It's like I looked at Brooke's face. I was like, she
It's
doesn't know what
basically
FKT
like
is.
the Guinness record for like the trail or just running trail people.
Yeah. And so you kind of set up the rest of the year to chase some FKTs, right? Like that's what it looked like. Do you want to talk about some of those? There was Italy and Camino, like the two longer ones, right?
Yeah. So basically, since I decided to run the 20,000 kilometer, I try to figure out a way to train for it. There's no book written about how do you run across two continents. So I have to kind of figure it out on my own. And so I read a bunch of books. I use AI a lot actually in the process of generating a training plan for me. And so I decided what would be good is to do these simulation runs. And I think FKT, and also maybe after not getting the first FKT, I'm kind of like, okay, I definitely want one now. So I kind of use it as a way to discover trails around the world where I can do these long multi-day projects to simulate the demands of the actual run. And so in the beginning of the year after that first run in Sinai, I made a list of like 11 or 12 different FKTs that I can get throughout the year. And I was like, if I didn't get FKT, I'm going to be the one that sets 12 FKT in 12 months. That didn't happen. But I think it's better to aim high and then you you still do a lot, even though it's like not, I didn't do all of the ones that I wanted to do, but I feel like if I didn't set the goal that high, I might only have done one or something like that. So in May, I did my first ever FKT, which is Via Francigena. It's the oldest pilgrimage path in Europe, older than the Camino, and it takes you from the Alps in Italy all the way to Rome, to Vatican City. And that was a really fun one. And in October, I got my Camino de Santiago FKT. So that's the one that a lot of people have heard about that know me. And it is in the female self-supported category, meaning it's for someone who doesn't have a support vehicle, who is taking care of themselves every day while buying food and drinks and things like that on the way. The smaller ones that I didn't really, not a lot of people know about, is I also set one when I was back in China in February, the Tiger Leaping Gorge. There's a really awesome trail that goes through this really crazy, I think one of the highest canyons or the gorges in the world. And then I also attempted 2 FKTs.
The one in China shows up on your FKT as 2 different ones. Is it one there and one there and back?
Yeah.
Because it reads as, okay.
Yeah. So, and there's another one that is like there was a moment of failure, basically a streak of failure in my training last year. And that was when I tried to do the Berlin Wall Trail FKT. And I had definitely overestimated my own ability and underestimated how hard it is to do a 100-mile run. And I learned a lot from that experience, but I didn't end up managing to get it. I managed to finish the trail eventually, but I didn't get FKT on that. And I also had the plan to do the Cross Iceland FKT. There's no female record on that right now. So I was going to just go and do it, but it will be a completely unsupported project. And at the time, I realized that pretty much 1 week before I was about to go, I didn't book the ticket yet. I was like, I don't think I'm ready for this. And also, it just feel like if I did it, it might be too much of a distraction from this bigger project. So I think that's last year's summer was a moment for me to learn, okay, there's times to say no to things, and there's time where you don't need to finish something and still learn a lot from it. So,
There's 2 things I'd like to dig in. Are you still mostly using like ChatGPT and AI for your training, or do you have someone designing your training now? Just out of curiosity.
For the running part, I mean, I have a physio who has been very awesome. He volunteered his time to help me with my training. And he's also a runner. He does triathlons and Ironmans. And he's been helping a lot with like just building out a strength program for me and also giving advice on like training and stuff. But my main program, I learned a lot from just working with AI, and I like read my own resources and things like that. So AI is a really good way for me to say, okay, these are the knowledge point and the training system that I believe in, and just use this and to adapt to my schedule for this year. So I wouldn't say like, it's not really like using AI to say, hey, just tell me what to do. It's like using it as a tool to populate my schedule so I don't have to do it for every week myself.
Yeah, that makes sense. The other thing is, I was curious about Berlin and the 100-miler. I've run 100-milers. They're like a totally different thing. Like it's like 80 to 115K feels so doable any given day, but like so many things have to go right to do 100 miles in one day. And I don't know if like it's a DNF or whatever, if it's like an FKT attempt, because it's not a race, so you don't get like a DNF. But I think like did not finish DNFs are such a big part of ultra running. Like everybody DNFs is just like part of it. And there's so much learning that can happen in that. And I'm just wondering what sort of like, what was it in Berlin that made you like not decide not to finish, right? Because there's like a decision that happens where you're like, no, I'm done. I'm just wondering what that point was for you.
Yeah. I mean, it's kind of funny. I have this video that went kind of viral about me trying to run that and then like having my ChatGPT history, conversation history, tell the story. It's kind of funny. You see like in the beginning, I'm like, chat, how am I doing? I'll take a photo of my watch and just show like where I'm at. And then chat will tell me, because I already set out a schedule before the run of like, this is the milestone that I need to hit for like to be able to hit the FKT. And like, these are the places I'm going to stop and fuel at. And so chat already had this information. And so basically when I was running, it was helping me like validate, like just basically adapting the plan as well if something changes. And you'll see like in the beginning, it's like, how am I doing? Okay, you're doing great. And, like keep up the pace. And like at about like 50K, I hit this, I didn't realize, but I was running at a way higher intensity that I'm used to. Like I was running a lot faster than like the zone 1 running that I usually do. And I was like about to bunk. I didn't even realize it. And then like about 60K just hit me like a rock. And it was just like completely out of it. And combined with the sleep deprivation, because it already was hitting me, I started off running at midnight. And I didn't realize this, but I thought most people just like, when you start at midnight, you just like stay up the whole day and run at midnight. So like I didn't really sleep the whole day before. I got up at 7 a.m. in the morning and I started running at midnight. And then so by the time I got to 60K, I was already like really sleep deprived and tired. And combined that with the bunking, I was just like in so much pain. And I kept going though. And and you'll see with the chat GPT conversation, I was like, at some point, I'm like, chat, is this normal? Like, I was like, I'm lightheaded. Like, am I okay? Can I keep going? And I was crashing out on benches and like, just like, I need to take a nap. I need to close my eyes. I think that was the hardest for me, is the sleep deprivation. And I kept going all the way to like 100 something kilometers, 103 or something. And then it was already sunset. So by the time I was planning on finishing it within like 24 hours, and it would have been fine if I were further along. But at the point where I was hitting at sunset, I realized that a lot of because it's Berlin, it's Germany, and things close early.
Yeah.
And I would not have availability for fueling to the last stretch of my run. And that's, like a good 20, 30 kilometer stretch. And so at the point I could decide either like sleep on the trail or just sleep in the city, like to like be able to finish the next day, or just like call it quit and then finish it another day. So that's what I ended up doing. I think that was the best decision. Like I wanted it so bad, even though it's not an FKT. I'm like, I can't quit. I can't stop. I need to finish, to the point where I was down to like sleep in a park in Berlin and to like keep going the next day. But I was glad that the chat kind of kept me in check and decided not a good idea.
In one of your articles, you said like as a child, you wanted to be an astronaut journalist. And I like love that idea. And like creativity really fuels me. And I can see like the astronaut journalist in like your project. Like it's such a wide scope. Like you almost have to be from outer space to look at it and see the whole thing. I'm just curious how like people in your world react to it. Like, what do your friends and family think? Like, how do your parents feel about like you running across the world for like a year and a half?
I think what's most interesting for me to observe is the impact like me doing this have on them. Because like before this, I was pretty normal by all accounts. Like I'm just working in tech. I was, doing the regular good girl stuff. And also I wasn't really feeling super good about myself. And I think people can see that around me. Like maybe not like explicitly, but I was giving off like lack of confidence maybe, and that kind of thing. And I think for over the last year, people around me could notice that in certain ways. And I do have people that start coming to me and they're like, yeah, you inspire me to do this thing. You inspire me to start running and to like do something that maybe feels a little scary. And so that was really cool. And I think most people are really supportive, insanely supportive. Like for me to do this, I feel like it's definitely not just my own personal journey. I realized it's definitely like a community thing. It's something that brings people together. I have friends who offer to help in different ways and to also donate on this project to make this happen financially. And yeah, my family, my mom is also very excited. She didn't really understand what I was doing until I finally sent her a news article written on South China Morning Post about me. And then when I sent the article, I think she finally got it. And she's like, "Oh, I'm so excited for you. And like, you got to get the sponsors. You got to like, talk about it and post it on social media." And I was like, "Yeah, mom, I'm doing that." But it was really like when she finally got it. Yeah.
That's sweet. I'm also really interested in the intersection between like art and athletics. Like that's like one of my things. And I do think it's almost like performance art what you're about to do, right? Like it's it's pretty epic. And like you do like random things like running in a dinosaur suit. Like where where is like sort of the art slash athletic intersection for you? Because that's a really big part for me too.
That's really cool. Yeah, I haven't really talked to much people that also find the same angle. So I'm really curious about your perspective to it as well. But yeah, for me, I think I was listening to Marina Abramovich, who is a performance artist that I really respect. She has a memoir, and I was listening to it as an audiobook on one of my long runs. And that really inspired me. I think the way that she was approaching performance art made me realize that what I'm trying to do is less of a training as like professional athlete, more of a training as a performance artist. And because when you're as a performance artist, I think something that she said is like what it does is to make people think about the world or their life in a little different way. And for me, that's something that I'm hoping to do as well with this run. It's like, sure, I can like do this crazy thing but it's not really for getting the title of the first person to do this. It's more of like, if I do this, how can it make you or everybody that come across this project think about their life or our world in a little different way? And I think if I can do that, that would be a success for this project. And yeah, I think it's like the idea of having monks. So
Hmm.
maybe this is a little too abstract, but I think the reason why monks exist and like also pilgrims, like as a part of the Camino, I was thinking about this. They exist not to like serve a productive purpose of like they're creating this specific value, but what they're doing is to remind everybody else that there's alternative ways of living and to like open up the kind of very strict and like focused story that we're living with our lives and say, hey, there's other narratives out there that's possible. And so I think that's something that what I'm doing also through this run.
Yeah. For me, I was an actor for a really long time. So I always felt like my curiosity was like internal. It was like exploring like myself and my emotions. But like what running has done for me, it has made me more externally focused, which is kind of funny because it really makes me feel like I'm part of life. It has changed the sort of perspective where I used to be an observer of life to like when I do it, I really feel like I'm participating in life. And it's been like this shift in that way for me.
What do you mean participating in life? Like
I just
your
feel
life
like
or life in general?
I just feel like I become part of life because it's not like I do most of my running on a treadmill. Like I'm outside, like I feel one with nature. I'm like one with the animals. Like I just feel like part of actually like the ecosystem
Yeah, yeah.
when I'm doing it. Whereas before, I think so much of like being an actor is like lived up here. And it just makes me feel like more connected to everything. And specifically like nature and animals in a way that I was never connected to before. I just feel like part of the ecosystem. Like I feel like nature. I feel like an animal, which is not how I normally feel. But like running brings me down to that sort of like primal thing.
Okay. So it's like a very poetical lens to what running is like in your life as well. Yeah, I mean, I think I resonate a lot with this angle of shifting the perspective outwards. That's definitely something that I've been also actively doing the past year through this run project and through especially sharing stuff on social media. And I realized that like running a lot of times in our conception about running is an inward exploration. It's like how far can we push our body? And there's the stereotype of like, oh, runners are selfish because they're spending so much time doing something that doesn't contribute to anybody else but themselves, like, getting faster or getting stronger or whatever. But I think it's actually the wrong focus, or not the wrong focus. I'm not going to say wrong. It's just a different focus. I think it's like, yes, there's a lot of value in the inward exploration, but we forget why we started running in the first place is to explore the external world, to explore outside. And that's something that I think I want to promote in this run and in just the way I like to run. I like to run to explore the world. I like to run when I go to a foreign city to see what's out there. And so, yeah, I think that's this sense of wonder towards the outside world is something that we need right now. And I think something with the rise of running, especially trail running nowadays, I think there's a lot of that in this sense of wonder towards what's outside.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm like super analog, but I like love how you're like merging the sort of like AI into your training, but also with nature. Like you're like really finding like a blend between the two, where sometimes I'm less like, let's just retreat to just nature. And I like how you're like bringing it together. That's
Yeah,
like,
I mean, I think I definitely get both perspective. Like personally, I had my part in my life was working on ranches in Montana, and when I was living in the U.S. and I was living with folks that are just like homesteading and was training sled dogs for a while, and that's kind of where some part of my running lore started. But yeah, it's very much like I had this phase where I was very connected with nature, and I feel like I was in the search of something that's real. But at the same time, I have this like computer science background, right? And I feel like that's also real. It's like we as humans invented these technologies. And so for me, it's like, how can we make it work in a way that aligns with humanity and that serves us instead of turning our attitude towards each other in this machine attitude. And so that's, I think, serving as a bridge for me is very like a essential theme in my life. Like the Silk Road thing is a connection, being a bridge between the East and the West. And, also in a sense, it's connecting the analog with the digital and serving as a bridge in between those two. It's kind of like my thing.
I like it. I just sort of like listening to you reminded that you're 27, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Just like scrolling through your Instagram yesterday, I feel like you've lived like a million lives for a 27-year-old. Do you think like the nomad lifestyle has like prepared you for like everything you're about to see in like the next year and a half? Like, because you have like there's like a sense of adventure in you and fearlessness, even though I'm sure you get scared. Like you have explored so much. Like, do you think that that's like part of the prep?
I think it's definitely going to help and come in handy with, I've lived in a very different culture. So there is this skill of empathy that I think I was able to develop, of being able to understand people from different perspectives. So like when I'm running through different countries and being able to like adapt quickly to the diet in a place, to the cultural practice in a place, and to be also expecting the unexpected. I think that's a big part. Like I wasn't even like when I first started the nomadic thing, I was like very not comfortable with adapting to something that like isn't something that I've planned for. And over the years, I learned to adapt to that and then to just like, yeah, it's not about me. It's about the whatever circumstances out there. And I just need to, I know I trust myself enough now to like adapt to whatever is happening. And so that's, I think, one of the most important skills that I need for this run, and the mindset to have for that, I think, is very important.
I'm curious what sort of initially gave you the courage when you sort of like, you're like living, like your life is tech, you have like somewhat of a normal life, you're pursuing the things that you're supposed to be pursuing, and you have this like moment of like, the grind is bullshit, right? Like, I don't want to do this. Like, why are we doing this? And I feel like I felt that because felt like we've all felt that, but not everybody has like then taken the next step to like step out of the system, whatever, to like step out of it and be like, I'm not choosing that. Like, I'm going to do something different. Like, I'm really interested in that.
That's a good question. And honestly, I wish I have a better answer, but honestly, I feel like I was lucky Like, I don't think I'm beyond or stronger or braver than anybody else. I was lucky in the sense that I had things fall apart to the point where I consider that I could either try to put it back together or start something new. And so for me, like without this situation that became the impetus for me to really break down that dream of mine and then to try to pursue something, I don't know if I will have the courage. I don't know if I would have, gone this way. And then that's the thing, is sometimes something that is a crisis can turn into an opportunity. Like in Chinese, our word for crisis is literally danger and opportunity combined in one. And so I think there's a lot of value in being able to, leverage some of these opportunities. Sometimes it feels like it's about to be the end, and then you're fighting so hard for that to not be over. But sometimes we just need to lean into that and accept the ending of something, and as a new beginning for something else. Yeah, and I think big part of it, like to give you more concrete idea, I was trying to become a U.S. citizen, or like I trying to immigrate in a sense to the U.S. I was going to school there, I worked there, and I still didn't have a residence card or a citizenship. I was on a visa, and that visa was coming to an end. And I can either try to get another job that maybe I don't want, and that would chain me to the job because of the visa situation, to stay in the US and trying to still have the American dream, or I can give that route up and to try something else. And so that's what I did.
Well, aren't you happy that you're not trying to pursue the American dream right now?
I'm definitely, there's many times in my life that looking back, it like makes so much sense. Like with the figure skating thing, I was a child figure skater, and I was, that was like my thing. I didn't really even understand why I pursued it. I started skating at 3-year-old, and my mom has always like, I wouldn't say she's a little bit of Tiger Mom, like in skating, but she's like very open-minded in other things. And so like, my dream as a child, according to her, was to become an Olympic athlete, an Olympic figure skater. And which is kind of funny because the Milan Winter Olympics happening right now, and I know the people that are competing in figure skating, which is kind of weird. But like that was a thing that I wanted, and it didn't work out. And at the time I was like very devastated. And it was like the only thing that I know to want in life, the only thing that I've ever pursued. And it was kind of taken out of my hand because of my injury. So for me, it was like, what do I do with my life now? As like a 13, 14-year-old, you already have to lose your life and start again. That's quite a lot, I think. But I'm very glad that happened, that I'm not in the figure skating world, that I'm here pursuing this thing that feels the most authentic to me than anything else that I've ever done in life. So yeah.
How do you think, like, after living your life like this for like however many years it's going to take? I know this is like an experiment for you, like an experiment mindset, experiment project. Could you ever see yourself going back to like a 9 to 5 stable, sort of like what everybody else does kind of lifestyle?
I can see myself working a job. Yes. I mean, that's probably not the like most likely choice that I will make, because I have worked 9 to 5s, and I know just like in the sense of like a schedule that doesn't really work well for me, like just in my neurodivergence. But I can see myself working in the traditional sense, but I wouldn't do it with the reason that a lot of people do it. Because for me, what's important is having an intentionality behind it. And so if there's like, after this run, I want to pursue something that feels equally as ambitious to me. That's scary. And that's something that gets me going for the next like 3 to 5 years. And I would, if it's working a regular job or to pursue like doing something that everybody else seems to be doing is the way to get there, then I'm not beyond taking a job. For me, it's all about, if you have an end goal in mind that feels authentic to you, whatever it takes to get there, I'll do it. So yeah.
We'll see. It's like an interesting thing, like running these big things, like when you're doing it, sort of like disassembles your ego, right? Like when you're like actually doing it, it's sort of like it breaks down your ego. But then also doing things on these like large scales also builds ego. Like there's this like weird dichotomy.
Mhm.
I don't know what the question is. Like, do you think of it like I'm going to do this 20,000 kilometer journey. I'll make a documentary. I'll write a book. I'll be a speaker. Like this could like set you up to like have like a certain thing that you can do afterwards. Like, is that part of the motivation?
No, no, I'm not like that. I know that a lot of people do it for that kind of reason. But for me, when I'm thinking about after, like I do think about these questions because it's an experiment for me. This is time cap. This is like a 3-year experiment. Once I do this, this is the chapter. And obviously, I might still run and I very likely will still run. I might still even compete in races or even do other kind of like adventure projects still, but it wouldn't be the focus of my life. And for me, the only thing that I think would be important to take away is like, I can do something that feels impossible and I will use that skill and that mindset to do the next thing. But yeah, for me, almost like the ego thing is a really interesting question, right? Because so much of our life is trying to fight that ego. And for me, in this process of chasing this ambition, I realized that even though it's like my ambition originally, I'm noticing my own personal like ego or like my identity is like dissolving a little bit because I'm becoming this character in a sense that represents this bigger dream that everybody else experiences or like have that can resonate with. And so it's almost like why I say it's a community project because it's about the people that I've able to touch with this project and the people that was brought together because of this dream and because of this ambition. It's not like really my personal project. It's like people that got to know each other as well because of this. And so I'm becoming less of like I'm dissolving into this project, right? So
yeah, I can see that. I'm curious. I just like being an ultra runner, but certainly not someone who has done 20,000 kilometers. Like if I think of a project the size, like me, I would have so many like limiting beliefs pop up around time and money and like ability, like whatever, but like limiting beliefs, right? They would just like pop up and I'm sure they came up for you. And so like, how do you tackle them and how do you ignore them?
That's such a good question. And I honestly don't know if I have a full answer at this point because I'm very much still bound and troubled by these beliefs. I think the one thing that I do know is after a year of training and keep like challenging what feels impossible for me, it's like somehow if I just keep doing the work, they tend to work out in the way that I wanted to. And so I think it builds this confidence in myself. Like before at this point, I probably get really stressed. And because right now I'm in the planning process and for each section, basically I'll have like different crews from different nationalities. I have the Central Asia and Middle East section figured out, but I don't have the Chinese part figured out. I also don't have a sponsor that's a big sponsor that is confirmed that's backing this project, even though we do have conversations going. But if I was, maybe 2 years ago, I would be super stressed. I'd be like, this is not going to happen. Like, I can't do this. But somehow, like, at this point, like, and after, keep pushing my personal boundaries, I just know that I'm not going to worry. I'm just going to do what feels right for me. What I've been able to do to create value, which is creating content, telling the story and bringing people together. I would just keep doing that, keep showing up, and then trust that it will work out somehow in the end.
Is this project in any way making you more spiritual? Like clearly you have to like flex your faith and your like trust muscle. So I'm wondering, because like to me running is spiritual, but like, I mean, it doesn't have to be. Obviously, I'm just curious.
Spiritual, like in the religious sense, or what do you mean?
I mean, like you talked about doing ayahuasca before and maybe toad medicine or whatever. So there is like a sense of like spiritual. I'm not talking about God, but well, you could be like, I guess it depends. Like, the big universe out there, right? Like everybody has different beliefs. I'm not trying to impose anything, but I'm just wondering whether this belief in something else bigger than you is growing in the process of just like surrendering and having faith, because I hear a lot of faith in you in terms of like, well, it'll come and I'm not stressed. Like it'll work out. Like there has to be something that like you think might be helping you? I don't know. I'm not trying to impose anything.
That's
It's
an
just
interesting question. I really appreciate it, honestly. And I feel like I've never got asked that before. So I always love new questions. But I had a phase in my life where I was surrounded by a lot of hardcore Christians. And there was a point where I was like, you know what? I'm so jealous of Christians because for them, they basically have Red Bull. Like they have wings. Like their religious belief is like carry them through. Like they just feel like they can do something because God is helping them. And I was really jealous because I'm like, well, I don't really do the religion thing, but that must be nice to have that kind of faith. And I feel like at this point, I still don't have their level of like conviction and feeling like they're the sense of, I guess, like outside force helping me. I don't think it in that way, but I do think about it in the sense that the reason why I'm doing this is not just something that touches me. It's something because like also seeing how many people are resonating with this is like this idea is a product of the time and space in the evolution of our society and of our culture. And so there's a reason why I'm doing it. And it's not just something selfish and personal. It's something that is felt by all of us. And then so if I just make this happen, make this idea into reality, like this collective resonance will help me to the finish point. If that makes sense. So like maybe I have stronger faith in humanity and community. But yeah, and also self. I think having faith in self is a big like if you can't even trust yourself, how can you even trust other people fully? So like I think once I have the ability to fully like know who I am, that I can I can trust myself, then I can like say, okay, like other people are also like me who's out there and trying to, help make something like this happen.
You said somewhere running an ultramarathon is easier than life, and I resonated with that.
I don't even remember saying that. I love it.
It was in a Substack. I reread you. I'm on Substack, so I read your Substack. But yeah, that's like my favorite place to like consume content. That's
perfect. I'm so
because
glad.
it's just like longer ideas, bigger ideas, more thought out. I'm not sure if we're gonna get into it, but yeah, I think that's where I like got really interested in you was when you wrote about like what happens to the brain and the shrinkage and the sort of like kind of like causing your own sort of transformation while running. That's not where I was going to go with this. I was just wondering, like, there are going to be points in this journey because it's just so long where you're going to want to quit. Like, I'm sure that seems impossible right now because you're like, obviously, I want to do it. I want to do it, but it's going to get hard. And I wonder if you have strategies because it's different going out for a month-long journey or a 3 months journey or like, I'm going to do this for a year and a half. Do you have strategies in place?
I think a big part is just having a bottom line set out before going. So I had a conversation with this guy who ran from Hamburg to Shanghai, so also a very long distance. And he actually shattered both of his heel bones when he was running.
Yeah.
And instead of quitting, he got on a wheelchair and he rolled himself to Shanghai. And so this is the level of commitment that he had to himself, that regardless what happened, he'll get to the end. And so for me, like when I talked to him, he advised me to figure this out before I set off, because when you're running, it's hard to make a good decision that honors your authentic self. So for me, yeah, my strategy is to just figure out what is it that would happen that could stop me. And for me at this point, it's like, I will finish it regardless. Like, even if I die, I want someone to be able to finish the project, because I think it has meaning beyond just who I am. And so, yeah, like I'm prepared for the worst. And that's
I guess like the true definition of decide is like to cut off all other possibility, right? Like
definition of what you said?
The definition of decide is to cut off all other possibility. And it feels like you're very firm in your decision.
Yeah, I think so. And yeah, it's the idea of like stoicism, where you have to like do the death meditation, right? Like where you actually face your death and like go to the worst, and then realize even then it's okay. Even then I can keep going. Then if that's the case, then the injury and everything else would not be that big of an issue, even though it will hurt a lot.
I mean, I don't know if this will help you at all, but there's this woman in New Zealand who's been running 50K a day for over
Oh yeah.
700
Uh,
days. Yeah, something, yeah, over
yeah.
700 days while still being a full-time lawyer. So, like, it's clearly possible. Sometimes
Yeah.
it's nice to
I
just
mean,
know, like,
she's
that
kind of a
distance is
superhuman,
possible.
but yeah, it's definitely possible.
Yeah, it's more than possible. I'm just looking at the time, so I feel like we need to sort of like wrap it up a little bit. But I'm curious what you would say to someone like Brooke, who in the beginning was like, I'm not going to run, haven't run 5K yet, but I know that it's on Brooke's bucket list to run a half marathon. Like, what would you say to someone who's not about to do like 20,000 kilometers,
I mean, my
but
first
wants to
question for
join the
Brooke,
journey?
yeah, my question for Brooke is first, how traumatized are you as a person?
Oh, I got so much trauma. I could run out.
Perfect.
I got grief. Yeah, we got it all.
That's a great start, Brooke. We're starting off on a good page. So, I mean, it's kind of funny thing, but I think, yeah, a lot of commonality among people who do run is like, it's a way to process a lot of things. But yeah, at the same time, it's like, I think a lot of the times we need to learn to trust our body. And like what I said before, like I didn't think it was possible to do something like nearly as crazy. And so I think just like trust that you'll make progress if you show up consistently. And yeah, even though sometimes some days will feel really shitty and feels like you work so many months and years and there's no progress, but that's not true. And like don't let those shitty days distract you from your progress. And yeah, just like keep showing up. And honestly, like the biggest problem will probably be getting addicted, and like 2 years later you're running like 100 miles. So
Okay, I love a good addiction.
yeah, and then
I
your
actually
entire
love
life is about running and your whole weekend is taken away from you because you're doing long runs. And yeah.
something that you said really stuck out to me early on is that it sounded like you got a connection with your body. Like you were saying, you got to know when you're injured and what is mental pain and what is physical pain. And I think that's such a valuable resource to be able to tap into, not just in running, but in life. And I'm excited about that part of the journey because I can find like I'm super in my head and just listen to you and Orsi talk about how grounding it is and how, I guess grounding is the right word for that. Yeah, I'm excited.
Yeah, like it's people talk about embodiment, right? Like it's something about there's research around the concept of embodied cognition. So like how does moving our body actually help us think better? And you know how like you do this like when you're calculating, like that's connected to this idea of like you can process things when when you're moving your body. Like your brain literally functions differently when you're in zone 2 heart rate when you're running. And I think that's really interesting. And you know how like Orsi maybe found out about this whole project in the first place is my writing around neuroscience and the brain. But like you're a part of your brain that's becoming very self-aware and self-conscious, like shuts off when you're running. And so it helps you to process a lot of this stuff a lot better because your brain literally works differently. So yeah, I think there's a lot of things about, you know, also when humans first evolved, the process where our brain size drastically increased is very tied to the period when humans started running and hunting, doing precision hunting. There's a lot of science behind this that I can talk all day about, but I'm not. I'm gonna spare you the details.
What are you most excited about, or most excited, most curious about for these 20,000 kilometers that are ahead of you?
Yeah, I mean, I call it for the 20,000 kilometer experiment for a reason because it's still like I'm testing a hypothesis, and one of it is already kind of tested, which is can I write my own narrative? Can I rewrite it just because I want a different story than the one that I was told? And I feel like it's mostly proven at this point. But the other hypothesis that's bigger is that can we bring people together through pursuing something that's super ambitious and crazy. And I still don't know, like, I still don't know if I want to do all these like in-person events and inviting people coming on for a run and like to, really build this idea of connection and empathy towards people from other places and other cultures and like be the connecting thread that, allows these kind of community feelings to happen. And I don't know. I'm excited to see how that will evolve during this project. And can we actually make something that is not just, an individual starting something, but make it really about a community coming together. So if we can do that, I think that would be very exciting.
Is there anything we didn't chat about that you wish
Oh,
we
and
had?
the food. I'm very excited about the food because I know as a foodie runner, because I like to eat food from local regions. And I'm from China, but I'm so stoked to be running across China because I know we're going to be eating so well every single day. So, yeah.
That's awesome. Well, you really inspired me. I've had these dreams of, well, first running across Canada, and then that seemed so big. So then I was like, maybe I'll run across Hungary. And now I actually think that I might do Hungary in 2027. I think like I'm going to make that happen. Like,
Oh, yeah. How long is it?
it's just
How long is
1,200
Hungary?
kilometers.
400?
1,200.
Oh, okay. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, it's more the logistics of it. It's never the running that scares me, but I'm going to figure out the logistics. So
Yeah. If you
thank
can
you
come
for
out for a
doing
run in Europe, maybe you can do a practice round in some other countries.
yeah, actually, it's that. Yeah.
So also another thing that is nothing is confirmed yet, but I think there's some really exciting possibilities in the Balkans. Like there's some folks who are doing these relay runs from Sofia to Belgrade to I'm blanking on it, Ljubljana, I think, maybe not that far, but anyways, and they've done the route that I'll be running
Oh,
like as
nice.
relay races. So I was like, oh, maybe that could be a really interesting one for people to join because they've obviously done that before and logistically it works out seemingly relatively easily. So maybe that's something that people can come along for.
Are you still planning on swimming from Asia to Europe?
See, the timing isn't working out for the race to like, there's only one day where you can do that every year. And so far the timing isn't lining up for that. So that might be the only place where I have to take a public transport to get across because the bridge is also closed to pedestrians, except for the marathon day, which is also not when I'll be running there.
Yeah, fair enough.
But yeah, there's a possibility if Iran doesn't work out that I might have to swim across the Caspian, which is like, that's a lot, even for someone who run 20,000 kilometers.
How long of a swim is that?
Like maybe a week or something.
Wow. Okay. Now I've never swum more than 5K. I have no idea what that.
Yeah, so you would sleep on a boat. So basically, there's this guy Carl Bushby. He's recently got more popularity as he's been spending the past 27 years walking around the entire Earth, and without taking any transportation. And so he actually had to swim across the Caspian to like do what he wanted to do. So that was recent, and seems hard. Yeah, actually had to like stop and train for it, I think. But yeah, if it comes down to it, I'll make it happen.
Before we let you go, Brooke, do you want to ask one last question? Is there anything on your mind?
My brain is actually stuck on how someone could swim for a week straight without dying.
So he would sleep on the boat. He would sleep on the boat.
This is like a huge tangent, but the salt water, what it does to your tongue, like it's just like so many things.
Yeah.
That's extreme to another level. I hope you enjoyed that episode. If you get value out of it, please share it with a friend. It helps us so much. Comment, leave us a review, subscribe. You know all the things to do. We really appreciate you.